in New Jersey. Inventory is down 36% from the long-term norm. So,
and what just generally is responsible for that? Is it there's just challenge to find space to build? I mean, I'm from Connecticut. It's a lot of small little historic villages. There is, I don't know what the zoning's like. I don't remember what the zoning's like, but I mean, there is space to
yeah,
build there. I'm sure in upstate New York, there's plenty of space to build. Maine,
there is
certainly
plenty
in
of
the middle
space
of
enough.
Maine. Yeah. So what is it that's keeping inventory so constrained there?
Yeah. It has to do with building. It has to do with building and valuation levels. So this is now the housing unit growth rate in the last 5 years, 2018 to 2023. You could see very little housing unit growth, the amount of available housing units for either. This isn't even available housing units, it's total housing units. The amount of housing units in the state, basically flat in Michigan, flat in North Dakota, up 1% in Maine, up 2% in Pennsylvania, up 2% in Ohio, only up 2% in Connecticut. So yes, there is a massive shortage of building. The builders don't go to these states anymore. And actually, in particular, I know a builder in New Jersey. He actually moved down to Tampa, but he still builds up in New Jersey. You can see New Jersey only added 5% housing units. Compare that to Texas, which expanded its housing supply by 12% in the same period. Utah expanded it by 14%. And what the builder in New Jersey tells me is that they've added so many local rules, ordinances, and regulations in New
Hmm.
Jersey that unless you're a local who knows the planning board, knows the zoning board, and can pull the strings, he said it's very hard to get a project approved. And so I think a lot of these builders just don't even bother with some of these states because it's too much red tape, too big of a headache. And so as a result, they take the supply they would have built in New Jersey or Connecticut and they just build even more of it in Texas and Florida.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Being here in California, I hear very similar stories about just that it's a nightmare to build here, which obviously, uh, you can see why the builders go to those sunshine states where things seem to be a lot more lax, or states like Texas where there's just tons and tons of land and lax regulations.
Yeah, and actually, if you don't mind, I know you probably have a lot of viewers. You have a lot of viewers out in California, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just take a quick look at California. I think you're in Sonoma County, right?
Good memory. Yeah. Right there.
Okay. So in Sonoma County, we actually now are starting to get to a slight inventory surplus. And we'll rifle through some of these counties real quick so your viewers don't get too bored. But during the pandemic, we only had 500 homes for sale in Sonoma in November. Now we have almost 900. So this is positive movement, right? We have a 45 out of 100 for our price score here, which technically its price is stable. If I had to say, this probably corresponds to maybe like flat or a slight decline in prices we're forecasting for Sonoma over the next year. But you can see Northern California is where we're starting to see an improvement in inventory, up in Yuba County at 36%, Sacramento County 5% inventory surplus. Even around Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, we're starting to see more supply. Where the shortage really is in California, though, is like in Orange County, we still have a 12% shortage. In Ventura County, we still have an 8% shortage. Um, and these are off inventory levels that are already pretty low. So, we have another metric. Inventory is percentage of houses. How many homes are for sale divided by the number of owned houses. In Orange County, only 0.5% of owned houses are for sale
Wow.
currently. You look at this map nationally, oof, corresponds pretty closely to what we were just talking about as well,
Yep.
that shortage of homes for sale in the Northeast and Midwest. But let's zoom in on Florida for a second. In Florida, in Polk County, where Lakeland, Florida is, big boomtown, 2% of all the owned homes are for sale. In Osceola County, this is where near Disney, 3.2% of all homes are for sale. So we literally, on a relative basis, in some of these Florida areas, have 5 times more homes for sale compared to California. In Miami-Dade County, almost 3% of all the owned houses are for sale. So the moral of the story is California, things are getting better. There's more supply, but it's still not even close to the levels it's at in Florida,
Yep.
right? And so that's why Florida is leading this downturn along with Texas.
All right. I have raved in many of our past conversations about the value of the Reventure app. I'm so glad to keep pulling it up here. Folks, if you are into real estate, not familiar with the app, you should definitely go check it out. And if you're thinking about buying a home, especially if you're mobile, and could, consider different states, highly recommend you get it and do some of the searches that Nick has just done here. It's such an incredibly valuable tool to target markets where the conditions could be way more in your favor, versus other locations. So super valuable, Nick. And actually, maybe let's talk about that for a second. I mentioned a little while ago that you've recently created a price forecasting model that basically delivers or makes a price forecast for pretty much every real estate market in the U.S. and that eventually rolls up into a national market.